Yo, what's up, guys? So a recent article came out on Fortune Education talking about how much MBA students from Berkeley are making out of school. And so I wanted to give you guys my own personal thoughts on it. So let's jump right in. So the title of this article says UC Berkeley MBAs are landing $185K plus pay packages right after graduation. It says students who graduated from MBA programs in the spring are now in the workforce, and early reports indicate that 2022 was a big year for MBA recruitment. In fact, top-ranked business schools reported salary increases nearing the 10% mark. It says here, Ivy League business schools tend to get a lot of attention due to their branding, rigor of their programs, and success of their graduates, but West Coast schools also produce strong MBA grads. And the University of California, Berkeley Haas School of Business reports a more than 6% increase in pay packages for its 2022 MBA graduates. Fortune ranks UC Berkeley as having the number 13 full-time MBA program in the US. All right, now let's get into the details. The average base salary for 2022 MBA grads from UC Berkeley was nearly $153,000, almost $10,000 more than the 2021 average. Plus, nearly 75% of the class earned average signing bonuses in excess of $33,000, and 43% of the class received stock grants or options in their compensation packages. Yeah, so just pausing right here, this is definitely a competitive package. 5 or 6 years ago when I first entered the program, I was looking at what other students were making and comparing what UC Berkeley grads were making compared to, say, Stanford and Harvard. And for the most part, most of the salaries are pretty much the same. One of the things you're going to realize is that when you go to business school, you're all kind of competing for the same types of jobs, whether you work in big tech or want to go into finance or consulting. And so the pay packages from, going into, let's say, Bain or BCG consulting from Berkeley versus Harvard, it's pretty much going to be about the same. If you have a little bit more experience or if you can negotiate a little bit better, you might get a little bit more. But for the most part, I do know that companies don't really negotiate pay packages for senior consultants, bankers, senior analysts. I think these numbers are pretty accurate. I don't know if this article is going to go into a comparison of the average salaries across all the business programs, but this is definitely competitive. I remember when I was trying to decide what business school to go to, I was also comparing what the average salary was for students across all the different programs and how much of the percentage of the students actually got starting jobs or got job offers within 3 months of graduation. Those are kind of the two metrics that I was looking for. Berkeley is definitely competitive. They do play in a market typically where most of the graduates probably want to work locally here in the Bay Area. There's also a much more highly concentrated presence of tech, and tech tends to pay a little bit more than, let's say, CPG or other types of industries. And so I think the numbers are definitely going to skew more towards kind of the tech side. And I'm sure this article will kind of talk about what the allocation is in terms of students going into tech versus banking or consulting. But this number I think is pretty normal. I remember when I was looking at it, I think the average base salary was like 15 or 20,000 less. So, inflation, cost of living increases, that's all contributing to a higher average. But yeah, this is, I would say, in line with kind of the expectations. Whether you want to go into consulting or banking, your numbers might be adjusting a little bit. But of course, the article mentions that this is sort of the average. And so 150K, base salary plus 33,000 sign-on bonus, and then also stock grants. By the way, this will probably make up a huge difference. Depending on what company you go to, they might have a smaller percentage of their total comp in stock grants and more in bonus or vice versa. And so I think, depending on how you negotiate and the tech company and the industry that you're in, you might get a variation of the package. Moving on into the article, what made this year so exciting is the extraordinary demand for our MBA graduates and the appetite for their skills, including the ability to lead and innovate in a changing, diverse world. Assistant Dean of MBA Career Management and Corporate Partnerships said in a statement. Now, it says here that the median base salary for UC Berkeley class of 22 was $155K. And then by comparison, the median base salary for all MBA graduates is $115,000. That's nearly a 30% premium for attending a top business school. Yeah, and I think I've talked about this before in previous videos when I talk about the MBA program and why I recommend going to a top 10 or top 20 program is that there's definitely a premium. There's a prestige factor that gets baked into the equation. And, if you go to a no-name school, that's fine. But your ability to get the top offers and get into your dream company is going to be more challenging. And, the top tier companies, the FANGs or big consulting firms, they're typically going to be sourcing candidates from these top 10, top 20 programs. And so if you want to be competitive and if you want to get these fat paychecks, then, you've got to come out from a school where you can get noticed and also get the opportunities to interview with these companies. Because if you don't, then your chance of even getting a referral or even getting an opportunity for a conversation is going to be much more limited. When you think about the cost of doing an MBA program, make sure you take that into consideration. Just because Berkeley or some other top 20 program costs, double the price, do the math in your head and ask yourself, hey, if I can get this type of salary, am I going to be able to make it back? And I think the answer for most people is yes. There's definitely going to be an ROI component to this. And I would say for the most part, if you kind of follow the traditional path, going into a top program and then graduating and getting this job will make back whatever you put into it, in a couple of years. It says here also, this year, the most popular career path for Berkeley grads was technology. Ooh, here we go. So about a third of the class pursuing the field. The mean base salary for UC Berkeley grads who landed tech jobs was more than $150,000 with an average signing bonus of about $41K. And so that brings their starting pay package to nearly $200,000 immediately after graduation. Yeah, guys, I'll tell you, depending on what type of job you're in, if you're a SWE, I'm sure it's going to be a little bit more. If you decide to go into product management, this number will probably be a little bit higher depending on which company it is. But $200K starting salary for a mid-20-year-old MBA graduate is not too bad. And this is kind of the mean. And so there's going to be people also on the spectrum who are making, 300, 400, 500,000, especially if you get into like a private equity firm or a venture capital firm where you're getting carry for every deal you do. And so take that into consideration as well. The article says that our students do well at tech companies because of our strong general management education. The analytical rigor of our program serves them well in environments where they will be called upon to lead cross-functional global teams and make decisions based on data. Yeah, this is something that every school is going to talk about. They're going to talk about their curriculum, their leadership program, their staff, their faculty, world-class, whatever, this and that. And so, you take this with a grain of salt. But I can tell you guys from my experience that I think Berkeley had a pretty strong faculty with some world-class professors leading and teaching some of the classes. So I can definitely confirm that. It says here that the top 3 hiring firms for 2022 Berkeley MBA grads were Amazon, Bain & Company, and McKinsey & Company. Consulting is another field popular amongst UC Berkeley grads, with about 28% of them getting into that industry. The consulting graduates are making a little bit more. It looks like $167,000 and a mean signing bonus of more than $30K. All right, so that's also more than $200,000. And lastly, it says financial services also had a strong showing with almost 14% of the class landing a job in the field. And they are earning a mean base salary of nearly $142,000 and a signing bonus of more than $31,000. And then it talks about the cost and competition for a UC Berkeley MBA. It talks about the acceptance rate of just 17.6%, which is among the lowest. The Haas program does have a very small class size. For the program that I was in with the evening and weekend program, it was about 240 students for the class of 2019. And so if you break that into the 4 cohorts, it's an average of about 60 students per cohort. It says here that the full-time program is around 240 students, and the average GMAT score is about 729, with an average GPA of 3.64. Now we get to the cost. So it says here that earning an MBA from UC Berkeley can set you back close to $232,000. 1 year of tuition is $67K for California residents and $76K for non-residents, which makes sense. And then also if you consider other costs that goes into that equation with housing, supplies, transportation, health insurance, and personal expenses, which can bring the cost to $107,000 for California residents and $116,000 for non-residents per year. Berkeley does offer merit-based and supplemental scholarships to full-time MBA students. Yeah, for the evening and weekend program, they tend to offer a lot less scholarships. So, if you do the part-time program, you will probably have to pay your way through it or take out loans because there just aren't a lot of merit-based and supplemental scholarships unless you can really demonstrate financial need. But I would say this is still pretty on par for course back when I was in the program back in 2016 to 2019. But I can tell you that the cost has definitely gone up. And also, this cost is higher for full-time program students because obviously they've got to pay for room and board, and it's factoring in those types of personal expenses, which, if you're commuting, you might not have that. But I think for me, it was probably around 155, 160K for the 3 years that I was in the program. So, do the math. And if a part-time program makes sense for you where you want to work, you want to pay for your degree and not go into debt, and also work on your career, then I think there are definitely some advantages there too. Anyways, guys, those are kind of my thoughts on the Berkeley MBA program. And it sounds like students from this program are doing very well for themselves. I can tell you that MBA graduates from Stanford, Harvard, and the other top 10, top 20 schools are also going to do very well. Right now, I know that the economy is shrinking and we're in a recession. So I know a lot of companies are either freezing their recs or putting on hold on a lot of their hiring needs. So, whether this will stay true for the class of 2023, I don't know. I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging for those graduates, but long term, I think the MBA is definitely worth the investment. And, if you come out from a program like Berkeley or some of these other top schools, you're going to do well long term. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.